Welcome back. Today we are talking about music terms and symbols. So, what are they and why is it important to know what they are? Well, it's important to know what they are so that when you see them on the music, you know what to do. So, let's start. This little guy. This little guy is called a fermata. Or some people call it a bird's eye. As you can tell, it kind of looks like a little bird's eye. And that means that you are going to hold the value of the note that is under it, or over in some cases, for just a little longer than the value of the note. For example, if you had a quarter note underneath this fermata, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you get to 1, 2, 3, 4, you would hold that out a little bit longer than a quarter note, than a 4. You kind of just hold it as long as you feel you need to hold it. There's really no rule on how long you're going to hold it. You're just going to hold it longer than the value of the note. And that's just kind of for added effect if you want the note to be held out a little bit longer so it's not messing with the timing of the song. And then we have this. Usually it's abbreviated RIT. That's short for retardando, which means that you are gradually going to slow down. So that's what that means when you see that. You're gradually going to get a little slower. And sometimes you'll see a little note. We'll use a quarter note again. And you'll see this little symbol, like a peak up above it. And that is called an accent mark. That means you're going to accent the note. And as you can imagine, that means that you're going to make it stand out a little bit more. You're going to play it, a little bit louder so that it stands out a little more. And then you have this, which is called a skinny line, and then a little bit heavier line. So a double bar line is what they call it. And this means it's the end of the song, or in some cases, the end of a section. And if you see two little dots right there, or sometimes you'll see the other way, you'll see it on the other side too. But there's the little dots on either side of the double bar line. That means that this is called a repeat sign. That means you're going to repeat a section. If there is not, usually the end of a section will look like this, and then that means you're going to repeat and go back to the part that looks like this and start at that section where that little repeat sign is. If you don't see this one, that just means you go back to the beginning of the song or whatever. A couple others that are kind of opposite of each other. We have, for example, we have a bunch of notes on the staff. Okay, so they're all on different lines, and then you're going to have a little mark right there. This little mark is called a slur. And this means that you're going to play all these notes legato. And legato means smooth. And the way I explain it to my students is, like you think of like a swan, smooth like a swan gliding on the water. That's how you're going to play it, nice and smooth. That's what that means, as opposed to the tie, which is the same note. If it was the same note, just two notes moving into the measure. So for example, we have a note here, and we have our measure line, and then, so it's the same note, that's the tie. So that's the difference between the tie and legato, the slur. Okay, and then we have staccato. Staccato is you have your note, and then you have a little dot under it, or in some cases, you have the dot over it, depending on which way the stem is turned. And staccato is the opposite of legato. Staccato means kind of choppy. Think marching band, march tempo, you're marching. It's going to be kind of bouncy, kind of choppy. That is staccato. So it's that kind of the opposite of legato. Instead of smooth and connected, it's going to be disconnected and kind of choppy. I can't remember if we've talked about this, but we will go ahead and talk about these anyway, since we're talking about terms and symbols. This is our treble clef, which is usually the right hand, usually played with the right hand, the top half of the piano basically. And this is bass clef, which is usually left hand, and the bottom half of the piano. So that's important, so you know where on the piano you need to play the notes. You pay attention to those symbols. So in music, especially like in songs that have multiple verses, like hymns or whatever, you will have different endings because you have to go back and repeat for the different verses. So you would have this above the staff. You'd have this one. This is called an ending mark. This is telling you that this is your first ending. Sometimes you might have 1 and 2, depending on how many verses you have. So usually it's going to be all but the last verse. So 2, 3, if there's 4 verses. And then right next to it, you will usually have, well, since this is 2, we'll call this 3. So this is our third verse. So when we finish the third verse, this is our third ending. So this will be basically the final ending. So it does look a little different, but this is so that you know that you have more than one ending, so that you know to go back to the beginning of that verse, and usually there will be a repeat sign, and then another repeat sign at the beginning of the verse where you need to start again, or the beginning of the section where you need to start again. And then when you go, you skip once you go to the last ending, you skip this part with this ending and move straight to that ending. But that's just so you know what ending and where it is in the song. And that is it for today. Don't forget to subscribe and like and share, and check out my website so that you can see my websites, and I will be having tutorials and other things posted at some point. And be excellent to each other.